everybody, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to Tarot Memoirs. This week we are looking at the Wheel of Fortune. So if you are new to my channel or to this series, what I am doing is going through the entire tarot deck from the major arcana into the minors. And each week what I do is I share some passages that I've highlighted from my three favorite tarot books, which are 78 Degrees of Wisdom by Rachel Pollack, Benabel Wen's Holistic Tarot, and Melissa Sanova's Kitchen Table Tarot. I share some excerpts about the meaning, the things that stand out to me, the things that felt powerful to me, and we chat about that a little bit. And then I share some card images of the weekly card from some of my different tarot decks. Not necessarily my favorites, just different images to look at and compare. And then finally, I share some experiences, anecdotes, thoughts about how this energy, the energy of that particular card, shows up for me in my life day to day. And that is why I call it Tarot Memoirs. So without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into it with Rachel Pollack's 78 Degrees of Wisdom. And I have highlighted, so the Wheel of Fortune, guys. This is big energy. This is change and transformation. And this is things happening that we don't necessarily have control of, and we all know that that is not my favorite thing in the world, so this will be interesting. But I've learned a lot about change through my experience of this card. Actually, it's the Osho Zen Tarot that really transformed my image of change and how we deal with change, which I will talk about when I show card images. But for now, we're looking at a wheel and four figures in the corners. There's a ton of symbolism here, and I could get really, really detailed with the excerpts that I've chosen. I'm going to try to keep it manageable because there is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5 pages in Rachel Pollack's book about this card. So I had to rein myself in a bit because we don't want to be here for an hour and a half. Y'all would stop watching. I know you would. Speaking of which, fun YouTube hack, which may or may not work on my channel. I don't know because I talk really fast, but you can speed up the videos while you're watching them, which is amazing because, and it doesn't turn you into a squirrel. Like, I mean, it doesn't turn the voice into a squirrel. Is it squirrel? Is that the word? I don't know. It doesn't speed it up so much that like the person is distorted. It tries to keep the, like, it doesn't bring it up high. It kind of keeps it at the same range, I guess. So if you ever want to zip through parts of my videos or anybody's videos, you can always just hit the 1.5 speed. It's on the little gear icon, which is, my image is reversed. I don't know what side, but there's a gear icon or like 3 little dots if you're on mobile, and you can change the playback speed, which is, I think, the coolest hack ever, because sometimes I want to listen to stuff and even just the 1.25 speeds up somebody just a teeny bit, and it's great. I love it because I'm impatient. This might come up. Just saying. Anyway, so getting right into it, there's a whole lot here about the symbology of the signs that you see in the four corners. I'm not going to get into a lot of that. But the pieces that stood out to me here are, I just realized I should move my incense because that might be giving me a frog in my throat a little bit. Move my incense a little further away and bring my water closer. Isn't that smart? Okay. Sorry for the noise. That's probably right by the microphone. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm going to just dig right in now. I keep saying that and then not digging in. I'm sorry. Apparently I don't mean it most of the time. The Roman letters interspersed between the Hebrew. So the Hebrew is the symbols, so not the regular letters, but the in-between. And I kind of skipped that section because it gets really meaty and it's just, I don't have enough time. But the Roman letters interspersed between the Hebrew are an anagram. Read clockwise from the top, they spell tarot, T-A-R-O. Read anti-clockwise or counterclockwise, they form Torah, T-O-R-A. Remember the High Priestess's scroll? Interesting, right? We also find the words rota, which is Latin for wheel. So cool. Did not know that. Latin for wheel. Oh, yes. So Latin for wheel. And then orat, O-R-A-T, which is Latin for speaks. And Ator, A-T-O-R, an Egyptian goddess also spelled Hathor. Right? That was such a mind-blowing moment for me. Now get this. Paul Foster Case, following MacGregor Mathers, founder of the Golden Dawn, has formed the sentence, Rota Tarot Orat Torah Ator. This translates as, the Wheel of Tarot speaks the law of Ator. How freaking cool is that? I feel like I could totally meditate on that. Case calls this the law of letters. Since Ator became best known in Egypt as a goddess of the dead, it It is actually the law of eternal life concealed in the natural world. Though the body dies, the soul continues. Cool, right? The 4 symbols on the spokes are alchemical. Alchemical. 4 symbols. Oh, they're talking about these ones right here in the inner part of the wheel. From the top, read in a clockwise direction, they are mercury, sulfur, water, and salt, and refer to the alchemical goal of line 2. That is, transformation. Water is the symbol for disillusion, that is, dissolving the ego to release the true self that has become immersed in habits, fears, and defenses. We will see just what this means when we consider death and temperance. So cool. The Sphinx on top of the wheel represents Horus. Where's the Sphinx? Oh, there he is. Okay. Osiris' son and god of resurrection. Life has triumphed over death. But the Sphinx, as we saw in the chariot, also signifies the mystery of life. The chariot controlled life with a strong ego. Now the Sphinx has risen above the wheel. If we allow the unconscious to speak, we will sense some great secret to life, more important than the endless round of apparently meaningless events. So this talks about how things are happening for a reason, that there's a lesson to be learned, which I think is really interesting. In divinatory readings, the Wheel of Fortune signifies some change in circumstances of a person's life. The person would likely not understand what has caused this change. There might be no direct reason that anyone can see, and in fact, the person is likely not to be responsible in any normal sense of the word. The important thing about change is the reaction, and I'm going to talk more about this. Do we accept the new situation and adapt to it? Reversed, the card signifies a struggle against events, usually doomed because the change has happened and life will always win against the personality that tries to oppose it. Super true. I did a really powerful reading for an acquaintance a long, long time ago, and this card came up in such a powerful way and literally said, like, you have the power to take the reins in your hands, so to speak, and create change in your life. If you don't do it, it's going to happen anyway. It's just going to be more intense and probably less pleasant overall. So get on it. That comes up for me a lot when I get this card. Sometimes we have control to a certain degree, but only if we move with it instead of against it. Does that make sense? So I really enjoy that. Sorry, I'm bumping the camera. In Holistic Tarot, the bits that I have saved here. So this is a heavy book. I'm going to keep it in my lap because picking it up is hard. Wheel of Fortune is the karma card. It can represent a turning point in the seeker's life. Movement is coming. What goes up will come down. What hits bottom will bounce up. Forces are in motion. Sorry if my camera is freezing. It likes to do this like once per video at least. And then I wiggle the mouse or something and it comes back. There we go. Okay. Maybe it doesn't show up for you guys. I'd love to know. If you hear me say the camera's freezing and it doesn't look like it's freezing for you, like, feel free to let me know down below because that'd be good to know. Be good to know. Okay, next. Generally upright, the card suggests that the seeker's life is going with the flow of the wheel. In reverse, it suggests the seeker is going against it. So, similar to what we just saw. I keep waving the card. I'm so sorry. It's such a bad habit. I will work on it. I keep saying that and keep doing it, but I will try to work on it. Anyways, that is the one thing that I think all the books have in common, is typically when we're looking at the shadow side of the wheel, we're looking at the ways that we are responding to change. There's no side of this card which means that change isn't happening. Like, change is always happening when you see this card. Has happened, is going to happen, usually big change. At least that's been my experience. And finally, in Kitchen Table Tarot, the key word or the action phrase here, of course, is I am changing. I am changing. I love this. Okay. The Wheel of Fortune card is awkward when it comes up in readings. It's the beginning and the end. And this is actually, sorry, I'm going to totally interrupt my passage, but to say, this is powerful because I'm working on numerology at the moment with Tarot and Earth, and I've realized that my distilled meaning for tens, oh, that was my phone. I should have turned that off. Oh, well. My distilled meaning for tens is very much about a culmination, the end and the beginning, because 1 plus 0 in numerology is 1. So 10 is both 10 and 1. And there's also a whole big bit here. Sorry, I bumped the camera. There's a whole big bit on that in Brian Cormac Carr's Tarot to the 9 series when he's addressing the 1. When he's addressing the 1. He talks about both the 1 and the 10. Powerful stuff. So anyways, back to the passage. Sometimes you're riding the wheel and sometimes you're ground to dust under the wheel. It's very subjective. This card is about the law of returns. It can be about good things happening and luck turning around, or a warning to batten down the hatches and get ready to rumble. I love the way that that is written. And this is the tone of this entire book. So if you don't have it and you love that sort of like chit-chatty vibe about talking about the tarot, you will love this book. And then, let's see. Reversed or inverted, this card comes up when someone has tacked themselves up on a cross and is doing nothing to change their situation. So see previous, where I was talking about how I did a reading for somebody, and it was very much about like, you got to get some stuff going, because if you don't, it's going to happen anyway, and you're going to be at the bottom of the wheel when you could maybe otherwise be elsewhere on that wheel. So really powerful. Love that. So let's look at some card images, and then I will share some thoughts, some personal thoughts about this card. So first we have, of course, the classical Rider-Waite, where we have the wheel, we have the four, these are actually the four fixed signs of the zodiac, and I forget right now what they are. I think, I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to try because I'm going to sound dumb. And I don't want to sound dumb right now. But I know them. I really want to try. You can tell, right? Oh, God. What is it? I really want to try now. Okay. No, I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. We can look it up. We can look it up. You know what? I'm going to look it up right now because I can't let it go, apparently. I cannot let it go. And I know it's in Rachel Pollack's, so... This is me totally fixating. I told you, I'm totally myself in my videos. This is how I am in real life, too. Fortuna, the wheels, talking about the symbol. There's so much in this book. 78 Degrees of Wisdom. Holy cow. Nope. 4 symbols. Here we go. Nope. That's not it either. Oh, come on, man. It does talk about the 4 elements being present. Oh, come on. You know what? I gotta move on because I can't find it right away, and I will drive you guys crazy if I keep trying to look. If you know, can you put it in the comments down below? That would be super handy, and then I don't have to look anything up because lazy. That'd be great. So the 4 fixed signs. I know that one of them is Taurus. Yeah, there's definitely a bull there. One of them is Taurus, I believe. One of them is Scorpio. I'm not sure on the other 2. So anyways, cards. We're moving on. I'm sorry. We're getting there. So, classic Wheel of Fortune, big wheel in the center. These tend to be very not exciting cards most of the time. But I am absolutely head over heels in love with the Osho Zen tarot depiction. And there's a very a very specific reason for that. So, in the image in the Osho Zen tarot, we see a wheel. And we see all of this tumultuous energy with these big swirling bits of energy or wind or whatever on the very, very outer edges. These really big moving bits of something. And then as you get in a little closer, you'll notice that all 12 signs of the zodiac are on the outer rim. Let's see if I can get it in so that my camera will actually... There we go! All 12 signs of the zodiac. And you go in one layer next, and you've got a bit of a thunderstorm. But what you have in the very, very, very center is peace. So that Tao symbol of the yin-yang. You have peace and integration and balance. And here is, when I started working with this card, the image that came to mind almost immediately, and this was 20-ish years ago, was a merry-go-round. Not the merry-go-round with the horses that you ride at the carnival, but the merry-go-round and a children's playground. It's like a round, flat wheel with rails on it. And somebody has to, so kids would get on this thing, and somebody, often an adult or another kid or a couple kids, would push the wheel whichever direction, clockwise or counterclockwise, and get some momentum behind it and get it really spinning. But you could always tell a lot, and this is totally in hindsight, you can tell a lot by what kind of kid was on the wheel, by where they chose to stand or sit on it. So the people that sat or stood near the edges of the wheel, these were the adventurous people, the daredevils, the risk takers, because at the edge of the wheel there was more wind resistance. This is the scientific reason. There was more wind resistance, so the spinning wheel would feel much more violent and active. The closer to the middle and the lower to the ground or lower to the floor of the wheel that you stood or sat, so that ideally sitting near the center, the less risk, they're less into risk that somebody was, because in the center, if you sat dead center and you sat down low, you could barely even feel the spin. Like, you would feel it, but it would be very minimal. And the further to the edge you got, the more you would feel it. So on any given day, if you wanted to feel it more, you'd sit near the edge, less you'd sit in the middle. And that's probably a really drawn out explanation, but here's why it matters. Where we sit on the wheel of change determines whether it's going to feel really horrible and traumatic or whether it's something that we can make peace with and move with. So if we're making peace with change, we're moving into the center. We're going, okay, change is going to happen. I'm not going to resist it. But when we resist change, so we're clinging to the edges of the wheel because that's where all that wind resistance is. When we resist change, it feels bigger, more traumatic, more life damaging, I guess I want to say. So the energy is bigger and bigger and bigger the closer to the edge that you get. And this card is what totally gave me that feeling, that visual. And I can never not, it's a double negative. I can't see this card any other way. That's what I'm trying to say. I can't see this card any other way anymore. In a good way. I think that's been a powerful image for me in my life and how I talk about change and the wheel. So that's a lot of time on one card. We're gonna keep it moving. So next I have the Magical Forest Tarot. This is very similar to the classic Rider-Waite, but with cuter critters. You still got the tarot letters. Let's see if it'll focus. Excuse me, I have a hiccup. Super cute. A little bit of nudity in this one. This is the Mary L. Tarot. And we have a wheel, but it feels like a ship's wheel. And it feels like she is a part of the ship and a part of the wheel. And again, I get this idea of moving with change, being a master or mistress of your own future by taking hold and moving with those changes rather than resisting them. We have the Fortune Fairy from Tarot of the Hidden Realm, and this is sweet. This is more about, I think, wishing and trusting in fate is what I get from this. Really beautiful. Adore, like freaking adore. This deck is probably going to be my soul deck. I haven't worked with it for a full week yet. Well, maybe by the time this video goes up I will have, but I adore this. For starters, it's a ship's wheel, similar to what we just saw. But when you get in a little closer, and the camera actually focuses, you can see that all 8 sabbats are noted on this wheel. So this is also the Wheel of the Year. And in between each set of spokes, you have imagery that speaks to that particular sabbat. So my witchy heart loves, loves, loves this image of the wheel because the wheel does continue to turn. Future marches on, time marches on, and that's what this makes me think of. And then the ship's wheel makes me think of that idea that there is a sense of fate or universal power sort of driving change. And one of the things about wheel energy, as opposed to other change energy that comes up in the tarot, is that the wheel sort of change is change that you can't necessarily control, affect, or stop. What you can do is move with it or move against it. Those are like your 2 choices. But the change is going to happen. You can't avoid it. And I think that's important to remember when this card comes up in readings. I really actually enjoy this very vivid image of the Anna K Tarot because you can see some people are sitting on top, somebody's climbing up, and somebody's also been thrown off. And one of the historical references for the wheel that I don't think I highlighted in any of my books was in the original, let's see where is it here? We see the Sphinx at the top of the wheel. In some decks, I don't know if there's going to be any examples of this in my card stack here, but in some decks what you see is a ruler or a king or somebody on a throne on the top. And the reason that is, at least in my understanding, is that this is how monarchies and rulerships typically work. And this is true in politics as well, of course. There's always somebody on the top at any given time. There's always somebody striving to get to that place at the top, and then there's always somebody that's coming out of power. So this speaks a little bit to the power cycle. And if you like George Orwell, his work, or the book 1984, or Animal Farm, George Orwell has a concept called the power cycle. And his premise is that power is something that's always in flux. The wheel of power, the power cycle may pause, but it never moves in reverse. Somebody rises to power, that person is overthrown or cast out. Somebody new rises to power. But in between those things, there's other things that happen. There's chaos, there's a dictatorship, then there's a monarchy or a what's the other word I'm looking for? The opposite of dictatorship. No, dictatorship. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, there's a dictatorship. There's a democracy. So all these different things kind of happen on a cycle, and you can't stop it. You can't really stop it, and you can't really go backwards, but it sometimes takes a break for a bit. Really interesting. Anyways, that's what that makes me think of. That was a lot on that card too. Sorry. The Wheel of Fortune here features a mechanic or something, and this wheel has gone running down the road, and he can't really stop it. He's trying to catch up to it, which I think is really kind of cool. It's a really different take, but I sort of get that momentum of the wheel in this card, which I really enjoy. Here's a little bit more classic, but this is the Sun and Moon Tarot, a little more Thothy inspired. I think it still has, Yep, it still has the letters on the inner part of the wheel there. And yay, my camera, for actually focusing. Thank you. Thank you for behaving. I really, really love, and I think this shows up in a couple of my decks. This is the Wheel of Fortune from the Mythic Tarot, the original version. And we have here, I think they're called the Fates. So one of them measures out the thread of a person's life. One of them spins the thread. So that's this person up in the, oh God, I need both hands. Okay, this one spins the thread of life. This one measures the thread of life. And this final one over here cuts the thread of life. And so this speaks to sort of literally things being out of your control, fate, for sure. And on the actual wheel, we still have figures. We have somebody sort of peacefully sitting at the top, kind of almost like Buddha-like. Then we have somebody climbing up the top on the one side, somebody kind of being swept away down the side on the other, and somebody on the bottom underneath the wheel. And I like that it shows actual figures. Really, really nice. Do not like this. I really just don't like this deck. Yeah, I don't like it. I've been showing this in some of my tarot memoirs, and I don't like it. This, you see the racing horses in the background, but that's about it for me, symbology-wise. I don't like it. Speaking of which, this is, I should tell you what deck it is. This is the Impressionist Tarot. Those are the backs. I like Impressionist art. I've discovered that I do not like Impressionist art in my tarot. Nope. Don't like it. If you like it, I would love to hear some thoughts down below, because I'm clearly very biased, but I don't like it. How do you really feel, Lisa? I don't like it. That's how I feel. So this is the wheel from Ciro Marchetti's Legacy of the Divine. So I was just taking a peek at it here to see what's on here. So we have like this more cosmic feeling, and there is still, yay, my camera's behaving, some zodiac signs on there. I believe the letters tarot, yep, they are still there. They're in gold in the very center. I enjoy the sort of steampunky gear imagery here. There's also a smaller wheel at the very top, which is interesting, almost like a shield. That actually kind of makes sense if you think about it, if it's a shield, because when we're at the top, we feel invincible, we feel protected. Whereas when we're at the bottom, what's the symbol at the bottom? I'm going to use my camera to zoom in so I can get a bigger image for my eyeballs. Come on, deck. There we go. What is that? Is that like a cross? That pointy thing at the bottom. Sorry for the really up-close vision of my freshly painted nails. I feel like if that's a cross, let's just play with that idea for a second. If that's a cross, I need like a magnifying glass to know for sure, but if that's a cross, that kind of makes sense, because there's this idea that we feel like there's sacrifice at the bottom of the wheel. We've had to give things up. We've had to reset our existence. This is actually a pretty powerful image. Really like the shield at the top and that idea of being invincible, because when we're on the top of the wheel, when fate is kind of going our way, we do feel invincible. We do feel like nothing can bring us down. But time marches on, folks, and what goes up must come down. I like it. Not a huge fan of this one from The Wild Unknown. It speaks to me more to the web of life and the way things are connected than to the wheel or the movement of time. So, it's kind of a meh card for me. It's beautiful to look at. It just doesn't speak to the wheel the way that I want it to in this deck. In the Shadowscapes Tarot, we also don't have quite as much symbology as I would really like. It looks like a stained glass window to me. And we have a little plant coming up here, which is pretty. The artwork is beautiful, but I don't really get... We have the little fairies that are on different points in the wheel. I don't really get... No, I don't really get this one. I mean, I probably would if I read the guidebook. The other thing that bugs me about this card, you know how sometimes you're looking at an image and then there's like a piece of the image that has been zoomed in and separated out to the side, like on marketing images and stuff? This little bubble over to the side, where is it? This side. This reminds me of those sort of zoomed in bits. I don't get that. What's supposed to be in that bubble? Does anybody understand this card? I want feedback. If you have this deck and you love this wheel, I would love to hear your thoughts on what this symbolizes to you and how you read it. Yeah. I really enjoy this Wheel of Fortune from the Bonefire. Again, we have that sort of ship imagery, that idea of sort of waves or storms. This is what I think of with ship imagery in the Wheel of Fortune, is I think, what do you do when a storm happens and you're in a sailboat? You have to sort of move with the waves. You can't go against them. You can't make the ocean stop. You can't still the waters with your mind, but you can steer the ship into and over the waves, moving with that tumultuous energy instead of against it. And that's what I see here. Whenever I see a ship reference, that's what I think of. This is really enjoyable. I haven't worked with this deck yet at the time I'm filming this video. This is the wheel from the Druidcraft Tarot. She's clearly carving out a circle for herself, which looks to me like she's beginning to do a ritual. That's what I'm thinking. But I don't know how that really, excuse me, there goes my voice again. I don't know how that really matches up. I have to think about that one a little bit. I'm not sure. But those are the images that I wanted to share from my tarot decks for this week. And finally, let's talk about me and change. I literally have a dog that has he's curled his little butt up right behind my butt. So if I move, don't squish the puppy. There we go. I was like, I've got to readjust and I don't want to squish him. No squishing the puppy. He's literally, there's no way for me to show him to you because he's literally curled up like right behind my butt right now. It's pretty great. He's warm. So I am just pulling up my notes. So, Wheel of Fortune. So, as I mentioned before, me and change have a tricky relationship. Throughout my life, I've been really resistant to change, generally. My default is to resist change. My default is to be like, no, I like routine, and I like things to be the same. And ideally, I like them to be the same every single day. On the day that I'm filming this, actually, there was a live chat this morning, but it had just been, this is probably going to give away how far in advance I'm filming some of these. I've just started actually filming these in advance. But there was a Simon live chat with Darpan from the Mystic Aura, and the UK has had their fallback time already, so they've already reset their clocks back an hour. But in the States and in Canada, we haven't done it yet, so we're doing it the day that I'm filming this, actually. So I was like, I get up, I do my normal routine with my doggies, and I go to my computer to turn on the live chat at my time, 8 a.m., which is when it normally is on Saturdays, and nothing's happening. And I'm like legit worried for a second. I'm like, where is everybody? Why isn't there a preview image? Like, why isn't there at least a chat thing for me to like hang out with people and wait for Simon? And like, there was nothing. And I was like, what's going on? Like, I know that they're coming on today. So I went to Facebook and saw a message from Simon saying, you know, we'll be on in an hour. And I was like, but so you're coming on at 9, not at 8? And then I remembered about the time change, and I was like, oh, okay. And suddenly I relaxed because I knew what was happening. But for a bit there, I was like, wait, I'm supposed to be doing my nails right now. And like, where are you? It's pretty funny. So things that shake up my routine day to day, I'm not so good. I'm not so good. But when day to day, when I do it well, so when something changes and I just roll with it, things are smooth. I can't think of any time when change has come up that I couldn't control. And this is the key point, because control is definitely an ongoing shadow issue for me. But when something comes up that I can't control and I just roll with it, I just like let go of expectation and just move with it. It's always smooth. I can't think of a single time it's ever not been smooth. So day to day, when I'm in the light side of the wheel, when I allow things to unfold however they're unfolding without trying to like steer them, it's good. It's fantastic. Communication is good. My relating with other people is good. Everything's good. Shadow side. There's two ways that this shows up for me. I resist change by trying to control it. So this is where the ship metaphor comes in. Sorry, I keep getting a frog in my throat. With the ship metaphor, if you're in a storm and you try to like steer your ship in such a way that you can control the impact of the waves, you're going to get hit harder. But if you move with the waves, you're going to be safer. And it might feel dramatic, but it will be safer. And so yeah, when I try to steer or control the situation, it goes all kinds of sideways. And I've talked about this with the Emperor because that's the control card for me. But also just generally, like, me and control, we're not good friends. Because it's a thing. So change, like, the wheel represents that energy of things happening that I can't control. So of course it's going to bring up shadow stuff for me. That shows up all the time. But the one time when I did a really amazing job of moving with a big life change and it went really, really well was our last move. So we had, typically when Peggy's got more of like that wanderer spirit, she's got more of that adventurous vibe, and left to her own devices with no responsibilities, I could see her wanting to move to a new area every couple of years. I am exactly the opposite. I want to have a great home, someplace that I feel cozy, where I know the routine, where I know where everything is, I have things set up the way that I want them, and then I want it to stay that way forever. Pretty much. I'm a little better these days, but typically I really like it when things are the same, like all the time. Love it. It's my favorite. But the last time that we moved, we were living a bit of a distance away. There was a bunch of stuff happening in our neighborhood that was making things difficult for us. And it was a long way from my job, and there was a bunch of other stuff happening. But I still didn't want to move because I liked our place. It was great. It was cozy and small, and it had a great kitchen, and there was things about it that I really, really liked. But Peggy sat me down one day, and she's like, we have got to get the heck out of here. Like, we've got to find a new place. And I was like, okay. And she said, we don't need to hurry. We want to find the right place. We've got a bit of a bucket list of what we're looking for. So let's take our time, but we need to move. And I was like, okay. And I was on board completely from the beginning. And normally I'm not. Normally I'm like, all the reasons why we should stick it out, all the reasons why we should wait, all of that. But I was like, no, okay, I was good with it. Which was really unusual and probably a blessing to poor Peggy, who was like, yes, finally. But what was neat was that I was like, okay, we want to move, but we want to move for the right place. And so I went onto my Facebook, and because I've got a lot of local contacts and friends and such on my Facebook account, and I said, here's our bucket list of what we're looking for. Like, we're looking for rent in this range. We would like this many bedrooms. You know, it needs to be okay with 2 little dogs. Ideally, we want to have it, I laid out a bunch of criteria, to be honest. Like, it needs to be quiet. We like to be in non-smoking buildings. We've had issues in the past with neighbors that smoke pot really heavily, which just annoys us, both of us. So I had this, like, bucket list. And ironically, within easily 1 or 2 days, a friend of mine reached out and was like, I have the perfect place for you, I think. And it was his place. He was moving out, and he was going to be renting out his place for the first time, and it turned out to be this fortuitous, amazing thing, and that's the place you see in my backgrounds right now. And we've been here now for a couple of years. We're really happy here. Circumstances may force us to move at some point because the building may eventually sell or something like that, but for now, we are really content here. It's really a unique kind of special find in this area because it's very spacious, and I could just go on and on and on, and obviously I am, but the point is, I didn't resist the change. I embraced the change. And when I embrace the change, I feel like I'm able to manifest the most positive outcome possible in that situation. And this is when I did that. I was like, yes, let's change. Let's put it out into the world what exactly we want or need. And that's what we got. And it was great. And it was a positive reminder of how moving with change can be a really empowering and beautiful experience. So that is the memoir I have to share about change and the wheel today. As always, I really hope you participate with this series in whatever way that you're comfortable. I talk about this every week, but whether you want to make a video response, whether you want to journal, whether you want to post in our Facebook group with some of your thoughts about this card, or comment below if you have a memory that you think is really around the wheels energy that you want to share, all of that helps to further the conversation and deepen our relationship with these cards. But I encourage you to engage somehow with this content, even if I don't know about it. Like, even if it's just privately in the quiet of your own space with some writing or meditating or whatever you might want to do. But to help with that process, if you so choose, I've got a few journal prompts to share with you, and I share some every week from the book Journaling the Tarot, a little book of big questions by Andy Matzner. And the questions for this week, or the prompts for this week, are, the first one is, how are you expanding your horizons? The next one is, how clear are you about your vision for the future? This is kind of a tricky question, right? The third, what do you need to make peace with, and how can you do so? The fourth, what are you resisting? What are the benefits of doing so? What are the costs? And finally, what is ending in your life, and what is beginning? So that is it for this week's Tarot Memoirs. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will talk to you all again very, very, very soon.